I was 20 minutes late. That's all it took for my sister to exile me in front of everyone. No warning, no explanation, just a cold, public dismissal that cracked something inside me. I'd spent the entire morning at the ER, clutching our mother's hand while her chest spasmed in pain. I didn't have time to change, barely time to breathe. When I arrived at the baby shower, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not welcome here." I laughed, not because it was funny, because in that moment I finally saw the truth. They never wanted me there to begin with. I walked past the family portraits like I always did, head down, eyes forward, pretending they were just pictures. But today, something made me pause. The hallway was lined with memories. My kindergarten recital, Lily's first birthday, the beach trip where I carried her on my back because she refused to walk. Every frame was smiling, golden, and perfectly aligned like a curated gallery. But I remembered the moment behind each smile, and not one of them felt golden. Mum always said I was her golden girl, the reliable one, the smart one, the one she never had to worry about. I graduated summa cum laude, landed a 6-figure job by 27, and bought her a new washing machine the day after hers broke, not because she asked, but because she sighed, and I noticed. I also noticed that Lily never had to lift a finger. She crashed her car twice before she was 22, dropped out of college, dated the worst men you could imagine, and yet she was the one they hovered around, the one whose mood determined the family's weather. And now, at 31, she was pregnant. That was the headline of the season. Mom had turned the living room into a Pinterest shrine to motherhood. Pink streamers, baby bump photos, gift bags with Lily's face printed on the tags. There was even a banner that read, "A new chapter begins." It didn't mention Lily's name, but it didn't need to. She was the only story anyone ever read. Still, I smiled. I handed Mum the cheque for the caterer, Lily was short this month again, and asked if I could help set up. She looked at me, scanned my jeans and loose cardigan like they were an insult. "Maybe just hang the balloon arch," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "And please don't wear that tomorrow. It's Lily's big day." I bit the inside of my cheek and nodded. Of course. That night, as I folded the last of the party napkins, I overheard Mom on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low, but I caught every word. "Yes, she's coming," she insisted, but I told her, "Don't make it about you." My chest tightened. For a second I wondered if she meant someone else. A cousin maybe, an aunt, but when she walked out and saw me standing there, her smile froze just a moment too long. "Don't make what about me?" I asked. She waved her hand. "Nothing, honey. Just don't stress Lily out. You know how she is." I nodded again, quieter this time. The next morning, as I helped zip up her dress, Lily turned to me with her usual half smirk. "I'm so glad you're here," she said. I need someone to take pictures and keep Mum calm." "Of course," I said. I was always the designated buffer. Then she added, almost as an afterthought, "And please don't mention, that thing from last time." I paused. "What thing?" She laughed, but her eyes sharpened. The situation." My stomach dropped. She meant the miscarriage, the one no one was supposed to know about. The one I only found out because I drove her to the ER and sat in the hallway for 5 hours. "No one even knows I lost it," she whispered, smoothing the front of her dress. "They all think this is my first. Let's keep it that way, okay?" I wanted to say something, to remind her I'd been the one who cleaned up her blood, but I just nodded, like always. Later that day, I found a torn envelope tucked in the back of a drawer while helping Mum look for party candles. It had my name on it, Columbia University, Dated 12 years ago, I opened it. Congratulations. We are pleased to offer you admission. I stared at it in silence. My hands shook. I never saw this letter. I never even knew I'd been accepted. When I asked Mum about it, she didn't flinch. You were going to leave, she said simply, and I couldn't let that happen. Lily needed you. My voice cracked. You lied to me. I protected this family, she corrected. That's what mothers do. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the balloons off the walls and ask how long they'd been decorating their perfect little world with my sacrifices. Instead, I stood there and whispered, "Can I ask you something?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Of course." "If I weren't your daughter," I said, eyes locked on hers, "would things be easier for you?" For a moment, her mouth opened, then closed. No answer came, only silence. The morning of the baby shower, I woke up to a text from Lily, or rather, a lack of one. She hadn't replied to the message I sent last night asking if she needed anything. No list, no emoji, no thank you. Instead, it was Mum who called. "Sweetheart," she said breathlessly, "I need you to take me to urgent care. My chest feels tight. I didn't want to bother Lily. She needs her rest." I sat up, heart racing. "Did you call 911? No, she rushed. "It's probably just stress, but I'd feel better if a doctor saw me." I glanced at the clock. The shower was scheduled for noon. I had 2 hours. "I'll be there in 15. Mum lived 20 minutes away. Traffic was worse than expected. When I arrived, she was already dressed, makeup done, clutching her purse like she was going shopping, not to the ER. "I don't want to ruin her day," she said as she got into my car, "but I also don't want to die of a heart attack in the living room." We both laughed, though mine was more out of nervous habit than humour. On the drive, she stared out the window, calm as ever. "Lily's finally getting it right," she said. "A baby. I always knew she had it in her. She just needed direction." I didn't answer. She continued, "You were always steady, like a lighthouse, but Lily, she's light, fragile, beautiful." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "She's our hope," Mum added, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "And you? Well, you're our safety net." I glanced at her. "What does that mean?" "It means I don't worry about you," she replied with a smile. "If anything goes wrong, you fix it. You always have." That sentence sat in the air like a verdict. I was the safety net, the backup plan, the invisible scaffolding holding the whole family upright. At the clinic, the receptionist asked if I was her daughter. When I said yes, she nodded and handed me paperwork to fill out. "We've seen her before," she said. "A couple times in the last month." My pen paused. "Excuse me?" The woman flipped through a file. "Chest pains, always leaves before tests are done. Says not to contact family." I stared at the paper. "Did she ever get diagnosed?" "She refuses to stay long enough," she said. "We think it's anxiety." When I returned to the waiting room, I sat down next to Mum, hands still trembling. "Why didn't you tell me you'd been here before?" She looked straight ahead. "Because you'd make it about you." I blinked. "What?" "You'd worry, you'd stress, you'd demand answers. Sometimes I just want to feel fragile, not managed." I opened my mouth, closed it. There was no right answer. At 11:45, we were finally discharged. "Just a scare," Mum said breezily as she climbed back into the car. "Let's not tell Lily. She doesn't need the stress." I texted Lily anyway, a short message. "Just took Mum to urgent care. All clear now. Heading over soon." No reply. As we approached the venue, traffic thickened, then stopped entirely. A 3-car collision up ahead. The GPS estimated a 25-minute delay. My stomach knotted. I sent another message, running late, be there ASAP. Still no reply. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, the party was in full swing. Laughter spilled from the open doors, and pastel balloons danced in the breeze. I stepped inside, still in the same outfit I wore to the clinic, jeans, sneakers, a plain blue shirt. The room turned. Lily stood near a table stacked with presents, a tiara on her head, a crowd of friends snapping pictures. She saw me. Her smile vanished. "You're late," she said loudly. Mom had a scare," I began. "I took her to the ER. I tried to call—" Lily raised a hand. "No, not now." I froze. She turned to the crowd. "Sorry, everyone. That's my sister. She wasn't supposed to come this late." I stared at her. "You told me to come?" She shook her head. "Not if it was going to be like this." My voice dropped. "Like what?" "Stealing attention," she snapped. "Showing up in that. Making it about you. You always do this." I looked around. Faces turned away. Some sympathetic, most embarrassed. A few smug. My hands trembled. "Go home, Rachel," she said. "You're not needed here." And just like that, I was uninvited. Not just from a party, but from a family narrative I'd helped build for 3 decades. I turned to leave. A voice stopped me, quiet but sharp. "Aunt Carla." "I thought you were the one taking care of your mother," she said softly. "Why didn't Lily?" I didn't answer. I just walked out. I drove without direction. My hands knew the steering wheel, but my mind drifted somewhere far beyond asphalt and red lights. At some point, I pulled into a parking lot behind a shut-down bookstore, turned off the engine, and sat in silence, not crying, not thinking, just disconnected. My phone buzzed once, a notification, not from Lily, not from Mom, just a calendar reminder. Lily's baby shower, 12:00 p.m. I deleted it. Somewhere between the stillness and the nausea, a memory floated in. It was my 13th birthday. I had been so excited. I planned it myself, ordered cupcakes from the local bakery, decorated our small backyard with streamers I bought using babysitting money. I invited exactly 4 friends. We never got to eat the cupcakes. An hour before the party, Lily came home screaming. Her dog, a scruffy little terrier named Max, had gone missing. Mom burst into my room, tear-stained and frantic. "We have to cancel. She's inconsolable." I protested, confused. "Can't we still—" "No," she snapped. "This is more important. We'll reschedule." We never did. That night I sat alone in the kitchen, eating frosting with a spoon, while Mum cuddled Lily on the couch. Years later, I'd convinced myself it was just one of those things. Life happens. Dogs run away. But now, the pattern was undeniable. When I got home, I pulled out the old family hard drive, a dusty relic in the bottom drawer of my bedroom desk. It contained decades of photos, videos, scanned report cards. Buried in a folder labelled Spring 2008, I found a clip. The day of my 13th birthday. In the video, Lily was crying on the couch, face red and puffy. Mom leaned in and whispered something. The audio was faint, but I played it again, then again. "If you cry harder, your sister will give up her party. She always does." I froze. The breath caught in my throat like a swallowed stone. It wasn't just preference. It wasn't favoritism. It was manipulation, training. I had been conditioned to yield, to silence my needs for the sake of Lily's storms. And they'd called it love. I stood up, walked to the hallway mirror, and stared. I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. Tired eyes, tense jaw, a hollow behind the smile. I went into the attic, pulled down a dusty photo album from the top shelf. It was labelled Rachel, baby years in Mum's handwriting. Page after page of me smiling, me standing, me holding Lily's hand, and yet, looking at my own face, All I saw was loneliness. One picture caught my eye. I was 4, wearing a red dress, holding a birthday balloon. In the background, Lily sat on Mom's lap, even though she was nearly 2. My arms stretched out toward them, mid-motion, mid-reach, but their attention was turned elsewhere. I touched the image gently and whispered, "Who was really the forgotten child?" That night, I didn't sleep. I barely moved. Morning came and went, like a shadow passing across glass. By Monday, I had quit my job via email. No explanation, no backup plan. I turned off my phone, disconnected the internet, closed every curtain. I let the silence swallow me. I didn't eat, didn't shower, just lay curled on the couch with the old photo album like a wound pressed to my chest. 3 days passed. Mum posted on Facebook, "A mother should never have to bury a child emotionally." I don't know what I did to deserve this silence. She hadn't called. Neither had Lily. On the 4th day, I got up, made coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened a new document on my laptop titled My Will, the version they never asked for. It wasn't about money or assets. I had none that mattered. No kids, no spouse, just stories, unheard ones. I wrote for hours about birthday cupcakes thrown away, letters burned, ER visits ignored. I wrote about being told I was lucky not to need attention, about being expected to smile through erasure, about being invisible but expected to act grateful. I wrote until my hands cramped and my back ached, and at the bottom of the last page I typed, "I will die, not in body, but in story. I will die to the version of me they created, the one who stayed silent, stayed useful, stayed safe. I will die." In a way they never saw coming. I printed it, folded it, tucked it into the photo album under the picture of 4-year-old me in the red dress. Then I turned my phone back on. 10 missed calls from co-workers, 1 from a number I didn't recognize, none from my family. The rage didn't come like fire, it came like clarity. I sat at my desk for hours, sifting through articles, videos, and academic papers, narcissistic family systems, golden child versus scapegoat dynamics, emotional enmeshment, generational trauma. Every paragraph read like a mirror, held to my life. There were terms for everything: gaslighting, parentification, triangulation, words I had never learned growing up because naming something gave it power. And if I had known the language, I might have left sooner. I drew diagrams, circles and arrows connecting Mom to Lily, Lily to me back to Mom, a triangle of emotional debt. I realized I wasn't crazy, I wasn't broken, I was programmed. One article mentioned a term, the inverted narcissist, the child trained to exist only for the narcissist's reflection. That's who I'd been. A mirror with legs. I joined a support forum. Anonymous usernames, brutally honest posts. I found stories just like mine. People who had been the emotional butlers to their family's drama. One woman wrote, "I thought anger meant I was a bad daughter." But it was the first honest thing I'd felt in years. That sentence stayed with me. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't sad. I was furious. Not the explosive kind, not violence or screaming, a cold, clean fury, focused, forged. "Have you ever thought anger was a bad thing?" I whispered to the empty room, because for me, it's been a rescue boat. The next morning, I opened my email and typed a message to Mom. It was short. "From this day forward, there is no more mother and daughter between us. I am ending this story. You no longer get to be the narrator." I hit send. Then I stood up, stretched, smiled. The next move was legal. I hired a lawyer, reviewed every joint account, every signature I'd been guilted into adding over the years, utility bills, health insurance, the house title. I found ways to unhook myself, quietly, carefully. I moved her name off my emergency contact, removed myself from her power of attorney, closed the credit card she only used for groceries. She hadn't called since the shower. She hadn't noticed the silence growing teeth. While cleaning the guest room, I found a deed, one I didn't remember signing. It transferred ownership of my grandmother's jewellery box, worth thousands, to Lily. I called the lawyer again. She handled it. There was no more shaking in my hands. Then came the twist I hadn't expected. While sorting paperwork, I found an old envelope addressed to my father. It was postmarked from the town where he'd lived after the divorce, the place he fled to before vanishing. Inside was a copy of a letter. It was from him, dated 15 years ago. "I'm sorry I left you behind. I couldn't fight her anymore. I thought if I disappeared, you'd have a better chance of staying whole." I dropped the page. My lungs forgot how to breathe. He hadn't abandoned me. He'd been pushed out, squeezed until escape was the only option. And he'd tried to reach me. I needed answers. I hired a private investigator. I wanted to know where he'd gone, why he'd never written again, if he was still alive. While the PI worked, I returned to the attic, hoping for more. In the far back corner, behind boxes of holiday ornaments, I found a small wooden chest. It wasn't locked. Inside were letters, all from my father, dozens of them, each one folded neatly, dated, sealed, but never sent. Some were even stamped. The first was from when I was 8. "Dear Rachel, I miss you every single day. I hope you're still playing the violin. I hope your sister is being kind. I hope your mum is treating you right." Each one grew more desperate, more unsure, then quieter. The final letter was blank, just a page, just a name, my name. He had written it and stopped. I sank to the floor, held the box against my chest. Grief and peace braided together. I whispered to the dust, "You tried." That night I lit a candle, not for mourning, for resurrection. The audio file was barely a minute long, tinny, recorded in haste, but every syllable hit like a hammer. "If you cry harder, your sister will give up her party. She always does. That's why I had her. To protect you. To serve you." Mum's voice, her words. I found the clip buried in a home video folder, mislabeled under Lily's 3rd birthday. I remembered that day. I'd scraped my knee and been told not to make a scene because Lily needed the spotlight. It was the first time I truly felt like a second draft. Now I uploaded the audio to a private group chat, one that included family friends, distant cousins, and the church committee Mum loved to perform for. No explanation, no preface, just the truth. Within minutes the phone buzzed. "What is this? Is that your mother? This can't be real. I always knew something was off with how she treated you." Then it went public. Someone in the group posted the clip anonymously. It spread quickly, attached to hashtags about maternal narcissism, hidden abuse, generational dysfunction. Lily's baby brand, an organic skincare line she launched with sponsored content, responded the next morning. They pulled all partnerships, released a statement. "We do not condone emotional abuse or manipulation within families. We are severing ties effective immediately." Lily's Instagram went dark, and I, finally, went loud. I published a memoir on Medium, The Daughter Who Wasn't Loved. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't cruel. It was factual. I wrote about being raised to serve someone else's spotlight, about how silence had been weaponized, about birthdays missed, scholarships hidden, hugs withheld unless they performed well in front of others. It ended with a simple line: "Love should never cost you your voice." By noon it had gone viral. Strangers commented. Survivors messaged me. Women wrote long letters about their mothers, their sisters, their own guilt. And then Lily called. I stared at the screen as her name blinked. I almost didn't answer, but something inside me said, "Let her speak." I picked up. She was already crying. "Why would you do this?" she choked. Do you know what you've done? You just killed me, Rachel. No, I said quietly. You were just seen for the first time without the costume. She sobbed harder. I'm going to lose everything. My husband, my sponsors. Mom's not speaking to anyone. You destroyed us. I didn't feel triumph, just a cool, still lake of peace. I didn't destroy anything, I replied. I stopped carrying it. I hung up, not out of cruelty, out of completion. The next day, an email landed in my inbox. Subject, Feature Series Inquiry, Family Trauma and Truth-Telling. A small independent publication had read my memoir and wanted to commission a 6-part series. They were calling it Breaking the Narrative. The editor wrote, "There are thousands of Rachels out there. We think your voice could be the one to name what so many feel but can't say." I stared at the screen, then replied, "Yes." Back home, fallout was swift. Mum was removed from her position at the community charity board after multiple members confronted her with the audio. Some cousins stopped returning her calls. She posted vague statuses. Not everyone deserves a mother's love. Some just want a victim badge. But no one was listening anymore. Lily's husband filed for separation. In the leaked documents, he cited a deceptive emotional system that I can't expose my child to. I read that line twice, then I went back to writing. I wasn't happy. I wasn't gloating. I was just still, grounded, centered in a way I'd never felt before. That weekend, the publication flew me to New York for a video interview. I sat in a bright studio, lights soft, hair brushed back, no script. The interviewer asked me, "Why now? Why speak up after all these years?" I thought for a moment, then looked directly into the lens. Because we raise children to believe they're loved, when what they really are is useful. And that difference, it wrecks people. I leaned in slightly. And if you're a parent watching this, ask yourself something. Are you loving your children the way they need to be loved, or just the way that fits your story? Florence was quieter than I expected. The mornings smelled like bread and old stone. My apartment overlooked a narrow alley where neighbours hung linens like prayer flags. I taught writing at a small therapy institute on the edge of town, where the students ranged from artists to trauma survivors to retirees, just learning how to put pain into paragraphs. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't loud, it was mine. Most days I walked to class with a notebook and no phone. I spoke softly, but with weight. I asked my students the same question every semester. What if the first chapter of your life was written by someone else? And what if healing meant having the courage to rip out that chapter and start again? They always paused, then nodded. That was how it began. After the memoir, I published a second book, Unlearning Daughterhood, part guide, part memory, part manifesto. It was well received in small circles, especially among women quietly reclaiming their identities from familial scripts. One afternoon, I received a letter in the post. The handwriting was familiar. It was from Lily. Inside, a folded page. "Rachel, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to answer. I just wanted you to know. I see it now. The system we grew up in, the way I was used, the way I used you. I'm sorry. I want my daughter to grow up free. I want her to know love that doesn't come with guilt." I read the letter twice, then again. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply folded it, placed it on the kitchen table, and walked to the window. The breeze picked up. The letter fluttered. I didn't move to stop it. It stayed still, and so did I. Later that week, I launched a new workshop, Healed Daughters, Free Women, 15 women from 7 countries. Some had lived through narcissistic mothers, others through cult-like families, a few through generations of unspoken grief. We sat in a sunlit room with wide windows and hardwood floors, pens scratching into journals, the air thick with stories long buried. On the final day, during Q&A, a woman raised her hand. She was in her 60s, hair silver, voice trembling. "Rachel," she asked, "did you ever forgive your mother?" The room held its breath. I smiled, not out of politeness, but from something deeper, a knowing. "No," I said softly. "I didn't forgive her." I let the words hang there, then added, "I transcended her." Gasps, murmurs, a few tears. Because they understood. Forgiveness was a bridge many couldn't cross, but transcendence? That was flight. "Sometimes," I said, "healing isn't about going back to where the wound began. It's about creating a life where that wound no longer decides the weather." At the end of the workshop, we burned slips of paper, each one a sentence we'd been told as girls that shaped our shame. Mine read, "You were born to hold others up." I watched the words curl, blacken, vanish. Outside, bells rang across Florence. I walked home slowly. In the apartment, I looked around, not for ghosts, but for growth. Books on the shelves I chose, teacups without cracks, photographs of sunrises, not people. A life not built from reaction, but from intention. My students often asked me if I regretted cutting ties. I told them the truth. Sometimes I said, we don't need to go home again, because eventually we build homes from the pieces we weren't allowed to keep, and that finally was enough.